share some family history with you guys. And hopefully, family, you like what I found. My maternal grandmother's family history. This is my grandfather's lineage. A lot of these black Indians people were indentured servants under the Miller family in Paw Paw, West Virginia and surrounding areas. So how the colonists got over the indigenous native black Indians, they were given to indentured servitude, aka sharecropping of later times. So they will own the land and they sell the land or sell the houses and things like that. But in order to pay off your house or your land, you had to become an indentured servant. To this day in 2026, you can go see the Miller Tannery where my ancestors were indentured servants, as you would say. See, this was the loophole in slavery. It happened on my mother's side and my father's side. Although we were free people of color, black Indians, we were still indentured servants paying off our debts or our loans to the land. Even though it was our land, we were still paying off debts to it. That's crazy. So the European settlers came here, took our land, and then said, oh, you want some of it back? You got to be an indentured servant. And because we claim this in the name of Queen Elizabeth or King Charles the First. So we were indentured servants / quote unquote slaves, even though we were free people of color that originated and came from and bloodline came from the Indians that they saw when they pulled up on their ships. But they still was like, nah, we're going to claim this land in the name of England and enslave all of you, and all of you on your own land.
These niggas ain't your friends. Let's talk about it. Have you thought about it? They come around when you win, but when it ain't working, you gotta feed for yourself. I be posted low key like a deacon.
This is Grave Creek Mound, the oldest Indian burial ground in America. Only 1,000 feet away sits the old West Virginia State Penitentiary. Favors a castle, right? People in that area know that castle and those mounds were built together. Ancient artifacts were found there, with ancient writing predicting the stars and astrology. This was built by the Adena tribe. Look at them. We know what kind of people they were. Now ask yourself, why would you build a large jail right outside of a large indigenous Indian mound? Because they didn't build it. Ancient nobility priests were buried at the bottom of that mound, and they also lived in that castle. We know the truth now.
If you ain't on my vibe, you can't stand next to me, cause I'm on a whole nother frequency. I be way up where the Eagles be. Vibing low, you a buzzer eating dead things. If you ain't on my vibe, you can't stand next to me, cause I'm on a...
Is made up of 606 feet, 606 feet, 606 feet, 606 feet. 606.
Wait a minute, is that the Star of David? Is that the Star of David inside the Indian earthworks?
Made up of stades, exactly the same. Now, if that's not interesting enough, look at the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza. If you take the angle of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the slope is 51.8 degrees. Let's go back to the earthworks. If you measure the line that goes straight through the center of the structure, right here, and then you go true north, it's 51.8 degrees. That angle is exactly the same angle as the pyramids of Giza. It is the same math, the same calculations as ancient Egyptians. Let me show you one more connection. In 1860, David Wyrick, he's a guy who surveyed the Newark earthworks. He was digging into a mound near those earthworks, and he found a wooden coffin made of oak. They opened up the coffin and found a...
He found the holy stones in a mound.
Skeleton of a man holding a little box. It was about 8.10 inches in size. The box had been cemented shut here. This, by the way, is sitting in Ohio. Well, he opened up the box and he found a little man inside, a little black stone. They took it to scholars and they looked at it. The man seems to be carrying something, and there's writing here at first they couldn't recognize. The writing is, they thought in 1860, some sort of Hebrew. Well, finally, about 20 years later, they found some rabbis living in the area, and the rabbis looked at that, and they could read it. They said it was an old kind of block Hebrew, and it was a rendition of the Ten Commandments. Now, this is another piece. Block Hebrew. They said they'd never seen anything like it. Mainstream archaeologists at the time called this a hoax. But then in 1900, or just about after 1900, in Israel, they found the same block-style Hebrew writing. Mainstream archaeologists still dismiss the findings. They found it in Israel, and they found it in Ohio. But there was another stone that they found that they couldn't argue. This is the Bat Creek stone. It was found during the course of an official Smithsonian evacuation. The Smithsonian didn't understand the meaning of the writing on the stone. They thought it was Cherokee, since it came from Cherokee country. They didn't realize that it's actually Hebrew. They had published this originally upside down. They threw it in a box at the bottom of the Smithsonian, put it in the basement. Many years later, a scholar took it out of the box, looked at it, and went, oh my gosh, it's upside down. It's Phoenician, ancient Hebrew. So what's going on here? What is that about? Where is that history? I'll show you in a few minutes, and we're going to have a conversation. I'm going to show you some more things that the Smithsonian, science, government, commerce colluded to erase. By the way, I want to thank the directors of the documentary Lost Civilizations of North America for bringing these stories to my attention. I was blown away. To find more, visit the website lostcivilizationdvd.com. Here's the thing we should be asking ourselves. I don't know the story of these. Do you know that? Did you know that? Do you live in Ohio, and did you know that?
A lot of people don't.
Why not? Were the American Indians wronged? Yes. Yes. And that's what we focus on in America, is we were bad to the American... Forget about it. It's in the past. The question should be the ones that the founders asked. Who are they? What knowledge do they have? Can you imagine the difference we would have now if we would put our differences aside and put our past in the past and concentrate on today and say, let's learn from each other. What do you have? What is that? What is that? When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Peter Lilback, who is, I've told you before, is one of my favorite authors. He's going to talk to me a little bit about the founders here. And I'm also going to show you some documents that show how that history has been erased.
It says here the inscription of the Stele of Mesha, commonly called the Moabite stone, the text in Moabite and Hebrew with translation by H.F.B. Compton, M.A., Vicar Breadworthy. This is from 1919. It says here, the inscription here set forth is accepted with practical unanimity on the part of experts as authentic. Okay? Authentic. This is not a hoax. This is not considered a modern creation. This is authentic. This inscription is in the Louvre Museum again. It was chiseled on a monument of basalt by order of the Mesha, king of Moab, who is mentioned in 2 Kings 3:4, and who here recounts his victories over Israel, to whom Moab had long been subject. So they're mentioning Israel in this authentic script, this artifact telling a story of the ancient Moabites' victory over the sons of Jacob, the tribes of Israel. Israel was real. It is historic. To the student of paleography, it offers a good specimen of Phoenician script, parent of alphabets, used not only by Moab but by Israel. Alright, same language they spoke. So again, we have a real artifact telling a real story between the wars of the Moabites and the Israelites. Moabites, the ones Drew Ali is talking about, against Israelites. Yeah, this is more than just Bible stories. And the inscription of Mesha, or the Moabite stone. Alright, so this is what they're finding, just like the Los Lunas stone, right, we have here in New Mexico. Same writing, Paleo-Hebrew. A lot of this script is found all over ancient America. We've gone over that many times. So this is what they're finding in the Moabite stone, telling the story of the ancient Moabites, Drew Ali's people, who he's saying the ancient Moors are, and Joshua's people, Israel.
In the early 1800s, a community was established in Prince Edward County, Virginia, that consisted of freed slaves who called themselves Israelites. Richard Randolph, a former slave owner who was also a cousin of Thomas Jefferson, documented in his will before his death in 1796 that he desired that his 90 slaves be granted their freedom and 400 acres of his land. In 1810, his widow honored his wishes, freeing the slaves and granting them 350 acres of land. The former slaves are responsible for giving the name Israel Hill to the community they established on the land, and the residents of the community called themselves Israelites. It is within reason that we ask ourselves if these former slaves who established the once thriving community of Israel Hill were making a statement about their cultural identity, or simply likening themselves to the ancient Israelites who were once freed from captivity in Egypt. We should perhaps consider the possibility that throughout their generations they were taught by their elders that they were in fact the children of Israel. There is much historical evidence to support this notion. Today, there remains a few African American families who live in Israel Hill, at least one of which that is believed to consist of descendants of the early settlers. Over the last 3 generations, many Israelites left to pursue opportunities in surrounding areas. Much of the area is now wooded and uninhabited. However, this community was once nearly as populated and well organized as the later developed Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Therefore say, Thus saith the Lord God, I will even gather you from the people, and assemble you out of the countries where ye have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel.
From Egypt and the house of bondages, and or slaves, or whatever, servants, the house of servants, and I started right into not making yourself a idol. You know, I started right into that, and then he realizes somewhere along the line, at what point, like he looks like he continued to write, not to take up, not to uphold. Et down here, that's missing, the aleph is gone, the ta is there. Et Shem, Yahweh, the name of the Lord. Don't take up the name of the Lord.
Kolena, Agwiji.
It's good to be here, John.
I've heard that a dark cloud has fallen on the white path you were walking. It is good that you have turned your thoughts to the Cherokee. It was caused by Yahweh. We are in trouble, Raven, and Yahweh has sent you to give us counsel. My house is yours. My people are yours. Come, rest with us.